Hello and welcome, fearless writers. My name is Barrett, Laurie. This is my channel, and in case you are new here, this is a live stream author interview, which means we are going to be doing a deep dive with a friend of ours on their writing, their life, and what makes them create the art they create. So before we get into that, I want to say hello to everybody in chat. There were a lot of you here early. We're going to get into saying hello to everybody, but I also ask, how are you doing and how is your work in progress coming? Little update, I got about 1,000 words today. So, which you'll see in my blog, which obviously I'm addicted, so doing that now. But got about 1,000 words today. Thank you, Sam Wicker, for your sprints earlier today. That was super helpful. So made a little progress, happy about it. Not loving where I'm at, but I can't change it. Hello, Eva. Good to see you. Hope Isaac and Ken are well. Hello, Lauren. Tiffany, I was just on Tiffany's stream before this. She was teaching us Notion, which is kind of an amazing app. So be sure and check out Tiffany's channel for that. Hey, Sam, I got words with you earlier. Oh, and I got words with Haley last night. Or was it last night? My gosh, time means nothing to me anymore. Recently, I was on Haley's channel for sprints. Tons of fun. Hey, Margaret. I was backstage with Margaret earlier. Anita, good to see you. Delightful Devin. Hey, Devin. I'm going to quit this waving. It's weird. I'm not sure why I'm doing it. I'm going to stop it. Okay, they're all having a little chat. Hey, everybody. Grayson, good to see you, Grayson Wild. I just said today in a stream earlier, and I just did the wave again. What am I doing? Yeah, so I just said earlier I need to spend more time with you and see you, so we need to make that happen soon. Misha. Kelly Wright, hello. Good to see you, my friend. You're getting the snowstorm that just hit us. Richard, it is so late for you. How are you, my friend? Good to see you. Yes, I was about to banish you to bed. See? You read my mind. JC Carpenter, good to see you. Hello. RC Scott, hello. Good to see you. Mama Maggie, hello. I've got your video to watch later, Mama Maggie. I saw it premiere just a little bit ago. Amelia, I just wanted to say love you too. We were just texting together. Okay, thank you for the word count. So here we go. I think on the answer to my question. Good, but my head just went left on me. I'm going to hang out for as long as I can. No worries. Be good to yourself. RC Scott says, tired, worked all day, just finished my short story. Congratulations. Now I can turn all attention to my first comic. I love to hear that, RC. Keep rocking it. That's the energy I'm here for. JC Carpenter did have a big week because JC Carpenter was asked to co-host with the Courtney Project on Writing Sprints, and it was super major, and I was so proud of her. She did an amazing, amazing job. So all of that. And I've been dealing with snow since November. Devin, I know, we're all having like a minor ice and snowstorm, and Devin's like, y'all I don't even want to hear it. And you know what? You're right, Devin. So you're 100% right. So here's what we're going to do. I am so excited to have my guest with us. So I've been wanting to have Chandra on since 2021 because our backstage conversations are always as deep and thoughtful as they are on screen. From the moment Chandra and I were on a panel together, thank you, Glory Writes the Blues, I knew this was someone I wanted to know better. She was willing to share sensitive parts of her life in the hope that it would help someone else. In that willingness to be vulnerable, she gained a friend in me, and I'm so grateful to have this dialogue with all of you today. We're going to be talking about Chandra's writing, her channel, but also what it's like growing up in a fundamentalist home, finding herself as an individual and as an artist, as well as her current reality of working through grief. Let me tell you a little bit more about my friend Chandra. Chandra Arthur is a science fiction, fantasy, and historical fiction writer who writes full-length novels of flash fiction and everything in between. By day, she's an IT professional, and on weekends, a yoga teacher. Full-time cat mom to Dobby Carlton III, and dog mom to Piper Prudence Maccon. When she isn't writing, you can find her poring over a book, playing computer games, drinking coffee, and sometimes all three. And with that, hi, Chandra. Oh, I muted you. Look at that. You had a perfect moment, and I ruined it.
There we go.
Hi, Chandra.
Hi, how are you?
I am good. How are you? Would you tell the people where they can find you on the interwebs?
Yes, I am on YouTube under the name that was over here. And then my handle on all other social media is at @CChanWrite. So Twitter and Instagram. And I also have a Ko-fi. So if you're looking to read some of my flash fiction, that is a great place to find me.
Sweet. All of those should be linked in the description box below, so be sure and find them in the description box if you were not already following Chandra. What are you doing with your life? And I see my Dobby Carlton right there, ready to say hello to his loving audience of me. So, hi, Kelly. Good to see you. We were just chatting. Sam, I'm so glad to see you. Mr. Vlandis, good to see you. All right. We are going to get started with the questions. Are you ready, Chandra Arthur?
Ready.
Perfect. Let me switch my banners. And we'll get to the most dramatic moment. Boom. First question. So, first, let's talk a little bit about your background and where you grew up.
So I kind of grew up all over the place. I was born in Maryland originally, but we started traveling when I think I was maybe 2 or 3 years old, and then we traveled the United States. I've been to all the states but Alaska, Rhode Island, Maine, Vermont, and Hawaii. And most of those were in that time period of travel. I think we came back when I was about 6 and lived in West Virginia for a while. Virginia, then at some point back to West Virginia, just all over the place. And then we spent some more time back in Maryland, where I had a lot of family. And so I kind of grew up all over the place.
Okay.
A lot of year here, year there. And then moved to Tennessee when I was 12-ish. And I've been in Tennessee ever since then.
Okay. And so, first of all, what did the moving around do for you as far as your ability to make friendships, deeper relationships, things like that? So what was that like? Because I moved around a lot myself. So I'm curious, what was that like for you?
It was very limiting because I never went to school in any of the places where I lived. So I didn't know anybody there. I never formed connections with the community. I never formed really deep connections with most people because I knew either I'm going to be gone or you will. So what's the point?
Interesting.
And I also got really used to being the new kid. And with that, having the most strict parents. So regardless of, what my ability was to make friends, nobody wanted to come hang out because nobody wanted to deal with my parents. So it was an interesting blend, but I got very comfortable being by myself and very close to my brother, also very good at annoying my older brother. So
I love that. Well, you're kind of alluding to or leading into my next question, which talks a little bit about not wanting to be around your parents. So I'm assuming that has a little bit to do with the Christian fundamentalist beliefs. I don't know. Am I assuming it's Christian fundamentalism, or is it just?
No, you're correct with that.
Okay. That's what I thought, but I wanted to make sure. So talk to me a little bit about that part and, what that was like for you and sort of when you had that switch in your mind of, okay, I'm going to live a more open life, or I'm going to be a little more open than maybe my parents were. Where did that come from?
It's interesting because my family is not like that at all. It's specifically my parents. Everyone else in my family is like, what? Where did that come from? So because of, I have an older sister who's also more estranged from the family, and she had left home when she was 16, which was a year after I was born. And because of the way events transpired there, my parents made the decision to move the family away from any of our immediate, like their siblings or, anybody, my grandparents even. There was very limited connection with them, and we didn't live close enough to see them on a regular basis. And that was in part because when my sister left, that was her support system. And so part of it was removing that support system. I don't know that was a conscious intention, but it was making sure that we didn't have a way to leave so that we couldn't escape their plan for our salvation, if you will. Okay. This was something to save us, to keep us protected and safe from these worldly influences, which just so happened to be family, which resulted in, I'm not super close to most of my family, and nothing specifically wrong or no bad blood there, just I wasn't allowed to build connections with them. I wasn't allowed to build connections with my sister. I wasn't allowed to spend time with her one-on-one or have private conversations with her as you would expect with a sibling. All of that was monitored, whether it be having a parent on the other phone line, in the old days of corded phones.
Yeah. Or I'm old enough to remember.
Or having, you know, a parent sitting there right beside me while I'm trying to have a conversation. And it really hampered any ability to have any kind of personal relationship with anybody.
Wow. So what was the moment that for you said, you know, okay, I want to be different, or, you know, this, I need out of this?
I don't remember a specific moment. I remember just kind of this building sensation of like something's not right here. I remember a couple specific instances where things were changing. I would think of it almost like a relay of switches that happened at like different moments, and it was just all leading up to this overall like, this is too much. And I think the first one, I was maybe 6 or 7, and I was having I was having big feelings, and I was talking to my mom about it, and I was like, I hate all of this. I do not enjoy this. I would like to unsubscribe. And my mom was like trying to talk me down, I guess. And, you know, telling me like, you know, you need to trust in God. You need to like pray more, do the bigger faith thing. And I was like, that's not how I feel. And she was like, well, you need to like basically pray your feelings away. And I was like, if I'm supposed to pray my feelings away, why did God make us have feelings?
Which would have felt like quite a rebellion, probably.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And so my mom just kind of looked at me and was like, anyway. She didn't know how to respond to that. So it was just kind of left hanging there. And she was like, well, I'm leaving. And there was another moment, I was again 6 or 7, and I wasn't allowed to wear pants at all growing up. I had to wear dresses all the time, which was difficult because I liked to climb trees, and, you know, I didn't have any female friends, so I played with the boys, which meant I had to, you know, toughen up and get prepared to take some hard knocks. And my mom was telling me, you know, I needed to be modest and you know, not run around. And of course, you know, I didn't like wearing pants under my dresses. I was like, I'll wear one or the other. It's summertime. It's too hot for that.
Yep.
And my mom was like, well, you need to, you know, stop acting like a boy. And I was like, why? And she was like, because you're a girl. And I'm like, so? She's like, well, do you want to be a boy? And I was like, actually, yes. And she wasn't prepared for me to have that response. And I was like, if it means that you're going to treat me equally, if you're going to treat me the same, if that's what I have to do in order to have the same freedoms, then yes.
Wow.
And she once again didn't have an answer for that. So it was those kinds of moments where I was made to feel less than.
Yeah.
And there was no explanation for why I had to feel that way. That had me disconnecting more and more and more.
Wow.
And even throughout, you know, going into my teens and stuff, I tried really hard, especially like when I was 16. I'd had like this whole thing. I had an epiphany. I was able to go to boarding school. I thought a lot of that had to do with God. And I tried really, really hard to be a good person, to do the right things. And it was painful and uncomfortable. I'm talking about, I read Romans 12 and 13 every single day, 3 times a day, praying over it, trying to get things to feel right. And I couldn't do it. And I was like, is it supposed to be this hard? And, you know, through that process, I started dating my now ex-husband, got married. And then once we had...
What did they think of him? Were they okay with him?
I will honestly never know. At the time, I thought... I mean, well, one, I'd never been allowed to date, so it's really hard to measure their reaction.
I mean, you had no... Oh, my. Okay.
Yeah. Now, that doesn't mean I didn't do things. I lived my best life.
Yeah.
But it was
not
all in
having those interactions to even kind of have a baseline or an expectation of, like, Yeah. Wow.
Well, and dating in secret and actually dating are entirely different things.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet.
And
Especially at a
you
younger
don't,
age.
yeah, you don't know a person
Yeah.
that way. You don't get to know a person that way. You don't get to know how they treat you in front of people. And those are all really important things, which you don't know because you don't know.
Yeah.
And so it was, I mean, there was that part, but it was also, it went straight from you're dating this person. Well, now you're out with this person by yourself past 10 p.m. When are you getting married? So there was no consideration for how they felt about him as a person. It was all, your relationship is inappropriate because you're unchaperoned at times. And this was, I was already over 18 at this point.
Wow.
So
Grayson says, oof, I know that feeling.
yeah. And then
Oh.
it went straight from that to, I'd never had a curfew in my life. Of course, I'd never been able to go anywhere because we never had friends.
Yeah, I was going to say, where are we going to go?
Right, exactly. And when I say we did, there was nowhere to go. The closest Walmart was 45 minutes, and it was not a super Walmart. There was nowhere to go.
I mean, rural.
Yes. So I had no life experience. I didn't have a lot of social experience. And then all of a sudden I'm in a bigger town. I mean, the Walmart was 10 minutes away.
You made it.
Making it big time. And I didn't know really what to do with that. And we weren't getting into any trouble. It was just, you're unchaperoned. And that was when my mom was like, you have to be home by 10. It's the new curfew. And I was like, well, I'm 18, so I'm really interested in seeing how you plan to enforce this.
What was the plan for that?
There was no plan. And I was just like,
and you were like,
honestly, like you can do whatever. She's like, well, if you're not going to be home by 10, then don't come home. And I was like, okay.
You're like, okay. Best news. How is your relationship with them now?
I don't speak to my parents. Especially my mom, I don't speak to my mom at all. I speak to my dad very occasionally. I provide them my contact information in case of emergencies. Yeah. Should anything happen, I'm available. I'm going to take care of my parents. Yeah. But as far as like having a daily communication kind of relationship, that's a negatory ghostwriter. The gaslighting, and that's why I said I would never know their true thoughts about my ex-husband, because after the divorce they were like, we never liked him, he was a terrible person. I'm like, then why did you tell me to marry him? I am confusion. Yeah. So because of that, it's like there's all this, and there's all this gaslighting associated with it that I'm just like, I can't. Yeah. It's too tiring.
You need to take care of yourself, and there's a whole lot to look out for there. So how does that part of your life, or how has it impacted your art?
Mm-hmm. I first tried to write a book when I was 12.
Wow.
And I made a general announcement, which was my first mistake because I was very private about everything. I learned the only safe space is inside your head, and no one can make you say what's inside your head. So I made this general announcement that I was going to, I had this discovery and I'm going to write a book. So I started writing, and I don't think I'd gotten more than a sentence down. And I mean, I'm 12, like getting a sentence down of your first book, your first draft, like, yay, you know? And I think I went to take a break, or I got called down for dinner or something. And when I came back, the page was gone. And I was like,
you took your page?
Somebody took my page and threw it away. I never got anybody to admit to it, but I rifled through all of the pages. I think part of my announcement, though, was that I'm writing a story and it's going to be fiction because I wasn't allowed to read fiction. And I was like, well, you can't stop me from writing fiction, even if I can't read it.
Like, was it the fiction that was like from the devil, or like, I don't know. I'm just
yes. Okay. Because the I think it's Philippians 4:13, 12:13 or something. Whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are lovely, because it wasn't true. So no fiction bad. for some reason we forgot about the Whatsoever Things Are Lovely because we read all of the nonfiction, which history is not so lovely.
No. Well, no. I mean, yeah, especially depend. Yeah. Yeah.
And just for contrast, that meant no cartoons at all. But I watched Schindler's List when I was 12.
Interesting.
So
it was so fascinating to me that where the lines were drawn, and so is part of your writing and leaning into that. Like, do you think subconsciously that's a form of rebellion?
Well, yeah. Oh, 100%. That's what honestly where it started was like, I can't read fiction. I'm going to write it. You want me to have these super pure thoughts? I'm going to write the most disgusting thing you could possibly think of. Like, I will never be afraid to write something.
Wow.
And because of that, I think it's made me really brave in what I write.
Yeah.
Now, whether or not
it explains a lot, I think. Like, now when I think about some of your flash fiction, which I was going to tease you a little bit about later, like why you always got to kill people in your flash fiction. But then again, I do that too in my flash fiction. I got some issues with my narcissistic daddy too. So yeah, no, that's interesting. So yeah, wow, okay. I'm shook. Sorry, I wasn't prepared to take it all in. So do you think that stunted any of your creativity, or did it just drive it?
My creativity stayed inside for a long time. I have and always have had a vivid imagination. And the stories that I tell now are probably just as gory and terrifying as the daydreams that I had when I was 6. I didn't realize until recently that it's actually a form of dissociation, but you develop a very vivid imagination and you go and you live in that world when there's traumatic things happening and nobody can stop you. So I remember even as a child, like in the car, I would really enjoy those times because no one was telling me what to do. And it was difficult to get in trouble because as long as I wasn't being disruptive, what was I going to get in trouble for?
Yeah.
And so it would be these long stretches of time where I could be alone with my thoughts and nobody could interfere or, and then I would go into these, I would tell myself stories. And my brother started that. I think it was early. I was maybe 4 or 5, and to help keep me out of trouble because he was always better at staying out of trouble, he would make up stories, the most ridiculous stories, and tell me. And so my dad read to us a lot, but of course it was nonfiction. But then my brother would tell me these made up stories. I don't know where he got them. But from then, he would be like, I'm tired of telling stories. Like, go make up your own story. Like, go. And so I started to tell myself these ridiculous stories. I hadn't figured out a way to write them down, but they were all, I would go over the same part. Like I would pick up a story that I'd been telling myself where I'd left it off, and then I would keep going from there. And so I had these, they felt very long to me, but I would kind of go over and over and over them and refine them in my head. And I guess it's helped me be very good at refining a scene without necessarily sitting down to write it.
Yeah. I was going to say, Doll Cecile Runo said trauma to vivid imagination. Yes, I can confirm. I think a lot of us can. That same. Natalie Locke says, hello, Natalie. I can't believe I'm just coming in, going to rewatch. We were just getting into the deep parts. So let me ask you this, and then we're going to kind of pivot over to talking about actually now the show you co-host with Natalie. So good timing, Natalie. Thank you for that transition. So what would your advice be? As you know, my husband comes from a fundamentalist family as well.
Mm-hmm.
What would your advice be for somebody that, let's say a kid comes up to you that is coming out of a family situation kind of like that? And what would your advice be for how they can find themselves and tap into that creativity without fear?
So there's a 2-part to this question. The first, it's a story I actually told on my podcast. I have a podcast where as I work through stuff, I'll record it in a session and I'll put it out as a podcast episode. So it's not a regular cadence. But when I was about 8 years old, we were in Memphis at a Benny Hinn convention, and we were, or Hen or Hin, anyway, we were handing out literature because, all these people are going to hell. And there was this lady. She reminded me of a flight attendant. She was in this beautiful navy suit. Like, she was so put together. She was so classy. And I think I was staring at her because I was like, that's what I would like to be when I get older. And she saw me, like, she really saw me. And she squatted down on my level and she looked me in the eyes. And I don't think I'd ever had an adult really do that before. And she asked me if I was okay. And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. You know, and I tried to give her a pamphlet and she took it instead of rejecting me. And she said, you know, are you okay? Like, is anybody hurting you? And I was like, well, I mean, like, I get spankings sometimes. And she was like, okay, but are they hurting you? And I said, no. And she was like, okay. And she said, one day you're going to get older and you're going to realize that there's a whole big world out there and you don't have to do this. And I knew that I couldn't tell anybody about it because I knew I would get in trouble for having that, you know, conversation with a stranger.
Yeah.
But I also knew that she meant me no harm. And it was like, I don't know, it was just a very personal moment. And the fact that she looked me in the eyes and had this conversation with me as a person, not just as a child who was less than, I think that was my first ever experience being treated as an equal.
Yeah.
And so that stuck with me. The part about moving through everything, about getting to the other side, that's where her words come in. Realizing there's a whole big world out there. There's a tactic that's implemented in fundamentalism quite often, as well as in cults, which is why my podcast episode, it's under Cultivated.
I'm going to need to listen to this. I didn't know about the podcast, guys. I will get a link in the description box.
So it's, the idea is when you're sent out into the world to convert people, it's not actually to convert people. It's to convert you, because you are pushing into other people's space and you will be rejected. And the rejection makes you feel that everything you've been told about the world is true when it's not. But it's a way that
reinforces that one thing.
It does.
Reinforces the one thing they've taught them.
Exactly. You will go out into the world. You will be rejected the same way Jesus was, because he was persecuted. You're going to be persecuted.
Wow.
Let me put you in this compromising position that's going to validate everything that I've told you about the world. So you have to realize that there are good people. You have to realize not everyone is trying to hurt you. Yes, there are bad people out there, but there are also a lot of really good people.
Yeah.
And that was, I guess, my first window, my first opportunity to see a good person. And subconsciously, even though I didn't remember this until a couple of years ago, subconsciously it stuck with me.
Wow. Everybody was saying that's an incredible moment, and thank you for sharing it, because yes, that story is incredible. And again, thank you for letting me pry into your personal life.
Absolutely.
But I that's what I do. But so let's pivot a little bit, because I am absolutely obsessed. I've been shouting it out on all kinds of videos and streams and all the places. Flash Fiction Live, and you've got a big thing going on, which we're going to talk about, which is Flash Fiction February. But before we talk about that, tell everybody a little bit about Flash Fiction Live and what they're going to find over there on your and Natalie's channel, depending on the week.
So Flash Fiction Live, I'm not sure whose channel it started on, but this was maybe one of the first live streams I'd done with Natalie. And she was talking about this book, Write the Story, and she was doing a prompt. And I was like, can I try that? That sounds super fun. And so she would send me the prompt on the side with the 10 words, and I would try it out. And then we started sending them back and forth, and that sparked Flash Fiction Live. So now on Saturday mornings, we get together. We have one that's a pre-generated prompt with 10 words. Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Natalie.
And the other one is one that we generate live with help from the audience. And so we do 2 prompts, and then we exchange, and we read each other's story, and we provide feedback. We make notes. We have everything set up, and then we share that. We read each other's stories live, and then we talk through it. Any changes, any suggestions, any parts that were confusing. It's really just a live workshop, and it's fun because with flash fiction, it's like a scene. So if you are wanting to get better at scene writing, flash fiction is just the thing.
100%. In fact, Margaret Pinard is one of my early guests on my talk show, and she and I were just talking about this backstage, but we're going to talk about it on our show when she's on my show. But I spent almost all of 2021 blocked. I don't think I knew I was blocked, or admitted to myself maybe that I was blocked, but I totally was. And basically, the only thing I was writing was flash fiction, and it was a lifesaver for just figuring out what I was doing with this next book that I'm working on now. So I kind of think the same thing. And Bethany Votaw was in here earlier. I definitely credit Bethany for bringing me to the importance of flash fiction and short fiction for when you're just figuring out and trying new things. She was one of those people that was like, you should really try this. And I was kind of hesitant at first, and I regret that because it's now something I see as an important tool, which is what I love about your show. And what I think is so great about what you guys do is you really don't hold back from each other. You're very forthright with what you think and open and honest. I think sometimes as a watcher, you're kind of like, ooh, I mean, I don't said that, but go for it, Miss Natalie. Or, Chandra, whoever is like tossing the tough love. But it all comes from a good place, and it's all and it's the other thing interesting about your show is that you bring people on who write with you. Like a few weeks ago, Mama Maggie was on or pulled on with you guys to read her story, which she wrote in your stream, which is kind of amazing if you think about it, to just show up for a workshop where at the end you're going to end up with a new piece of flash. So kind of talk to me a little bit then about how you and Natalie, how did you connect originally, the two of you?
It was just over, it might have been on one of Zara's streams where we were both guests and we were talking about what was going on, and I was like, I have no idea. I'm here. I don't know what I'm doing. And then that was when Natalie mentioned the prompt that she was working with and writing out of this book, and I was like, can you toss that over here? I want to give it a whirl. And we were in the private chat sending it, back and forth.
Yeah. See, well, I know you don't, but I'm just saying, as a, you guys give it good feedback, and you don't hold back, I guess is a better way to say it. There's no daggers being thrown.
Only in our stories.
I was that one time. But yeah. So, okay, let me ask you something then. So tell us a little bit. Wait a minute. So first of all, I wrote my story today we're not going to tell people that I didn't write it on the first, but I wrote the flash fiction today for the 1st of February prompt. Tell everybody a little bit about the flash fiction February.
Mm-hmm. So flash fiction February came out of the flash fiction live conversation, but Natalie had been thinking about it for a while and was like, hey, do you want to do this with me? And pull it in as part of Flash Fiction Live and do a whole Flash Fiction February. So we started planning, and we were like going back and forth with stuff, getting everything prepped and ready to go. And I mean, I think it was really not long. I think we'd maybe been on 2 streams together where we'd started talking about Flash Fiction, and then Flash Fiction Live was happening, and then Flash Fiction February. And it's just been, I don't know, we get along really well. And I don't know, our brains are just like,
is really good together.
It just works. And so we just had, all of this, Natalie,
I feel like Anita's speaking from a personal place. Also, flash fiction can turn into a 3-book series.
Oops.
What do you have to tell us, Anita?
that is valid. That is valid, especially if you get some characters. Honestly, I think that's one of the things that I tell Natalie all the time. I'm like, okay, so I'm going to need you to write a whole story with these characters and tell me what happened.
Yes, same. I'm still shooketh by the one where, and I remember it vividly, where he drives across the lake and the lights dance and flicker, and then she gets stabbed to death by his work friend that he's going to pick up. Drama. You don't even remember it, do you?
No, I remember that one. I do remember that one.
The one that I'm like, that one moved me, and you're like, I don't even remember it.
No, I do love that one. I do that. I was very proud of that. I was like, But also, having lived in the country in the middle of nowhere, relatable.
I mean, agreed. I'm not disagreeing. Oh, she's my sister. Yes, I can see it. Well, so let me ask you this then. How can folks get involved? If folks want to do Flash Fiction February, where do they go? What do they do?
So you should follow both Natalie and myself on Instagram. We are posting the prompts every day. They go up at 9 a.m. So you can jump in there, grab them. We also have some fun little like cards, the stories that you can put on your Instagram where you can put in how everything's going. And then we'll also have a summary at the end so you can kind of evaluate the fiction that you've written over the month and share a little bit of that with everyone. Also,
that was the thing Natalie sent me. That's what that was. I got these blank things in DM, and I feel really, really dumb right now.
Hey, without hearing it out loud, you're probably like, I know you have a lot of stuff going on, so.
It literally just clicked just now what that was for. I almost messaged her back and was like, and then I was like, she's been working. She's got those kids. She's tired. Like, there is so much going on. I'm just let her be. She sent me a Canva template. Okay. No, I see it, Natalie. Yeah. Have a laugh. I even watched your story today, Natalie, and did not put that together until she said that to me just now. Yay, active listening. Okay.
So the other thing about that is you don't have to write all the prompts the day they happen. You can write them at any point in time. We just were, putting them out one day at a time. So definitely check them out. Jump in, write some flash fiction, and then we're still going to have our flash fiction live
Saturday.
Yes, on Saturday.
Yes. So quick question from JC Carpenter. It's a great one. Do you guys post them on your Facebook page too, for those of us that don't have Instagram?
I have not. So I do have a Facebook author page. I haven't done a whole lot with it, but if people are looking for that.
Oh, that's right. JC Carpenter's doing a flash fiction challenge all month, aren't you, JC? We'll find a way. We'll talk. We'll figure it.
Yeah, we'll have to get together. Also, JC,
Twitter?
I know that you were on a live stream with Barrett. I think it was maybe your first live stream, was it?
Yes.
And there was some talk about you and I working together. So hit a girl up.
Yay. Okay, I can connect you too because I can give you connection information. If you're okay with that, JC, then I will give emails and you can exchange, but I'm sure she's fine with it. Oh, hello, Jenna O'Malley. Good to see you. Jenna O'Malley interviewed Margaret Kennard yesterday, folks. So if you guys missed that interview, be sure and check out Margaret's interview by Jenna O'Malley over on her channel. It was great yesterday. I enjoyed it. And my Richard Holiday was interviewed by Shannon and the crew, Morgan Lee and Ben Pick, Running to Write this week as well. So be sure and support that podcast as well. So let me then ask you one more on Flash before we move on. So what is your goal, your and Natalie's goal for Flash Fiction February for yourselves and then larger for the show?
I haven't set a specific goal for myself. Having the posts go up at 9 a.m., that's a big one for me. I definitely have a lot of plates spinning right now, so yeah. I am keeping it together. Yes. But the other thing is, I mean, honestly, just the post. I mean, even if I don't write them all the same day, I definitely want to go through and write every single one of the prompts. So that's a goal for me. Yeah, that's definitely something that I want to do. And then moving forward, we of course, Flash Fiction Live will continue on Saturdays. We haven't set any specific plans for like moving forward or beyond this, but I know we'll definitely talk about it. Right now, our main focus is just making sure that February is fun and successful, and everybody who wants to participate can participate and knows exactly where to find all of the information.
But after the book, you guys are going to continue.
We've talked about that, yes.
Okay.
That's the plan. Well, I mean, I don't know if Natalie knew that was the plan, but
it's the plan. So Natalie's surprised. That's the plan. Okay, I love all that energy. Well, guys, if you want to find me on a Saturday morning, you are guaranteed to catch me either on Natalie or Chandra's stream. for Flash Fiction Live. That is the best place to be on Saturdays. It's great fun. So yes, thanks to all that energy. And yes, hello to all the folks that popped in. Jenna O'Malley. I think I saw Autumn Ashley. And did I miss anybody else that popped in last minute? I don't think so. I did want to pop Kelly's up. I was going to try and write a short story that turned into an anthology that's now its own novel. So I tip my hat to anyone who can keep their short story a short story, because Bish could never. Relatable. I'm not saying it's not 100% relatable. So we're going to shift gears before we get into the rapid fire, and we're going to talk a little bit about air. So when you originally set up this interview way in the fall of 2021, before my life went to shit, you sent me this blurb for this book that you had written called Air, and I went back to read it when I was doing this outline, and I'm obsessed with it. So I'm going to read the blurb, and then I'm going to ask you just a couple questions. So, the air is toxic and everyone lives in self-contained towers. Nadira is trying to get her asthmatic sister and others to better living conditions. She has a plan to get better air quality for Jelani, but just as things seem to be looking up, she discovers something that will change both their lives. There are bigger things behind the poor air quality, and not everyone can be saved. So I love it. I love the pitch. So tell me where the idea came from.
I don't remember. This was
months ago now. That's 100% fair answer, by the way.
So
I gave you that in October.
Well, no, that's not even why I don't remember. This was the second full-length novel idea that I had.
Oh, really?
So I had drafted my first. It took me about 10 months to draft my first draft of my first book, and then I had this idea, and I'd written 2 chapters, but this is way back. I was 19 or 20 at the time, so it was time ago.
Yeah.
And then I left it, and I went back to clean out my Wattpad because, they've had the security issues, and I was like, not today, Satan. Yeah. So I pulled everything down, and while I was pulling everything down, I started moving stuff off just to make sure I wouldn't lose it if they got mad at me for talking about how they're not very good at security. And I was like, let me just make sure I don't have anything there that I still want. And so, yeah, I got all of my stuff, and I was going through it and saving it in different locations. And I was like, ooh, I still really like this idea. This is a fun idea. And then I had better skills. So I added it to my list. I'd been writing a bunch of other stuff. And then I was like, 2021, one of my goals was to write 4 books in a year. I got to 3.5, so I'm happy with that. But this was number 3. And I was writing it. I don't remember who I said this to. I was like, this might be the best thing I've ever written. But it's also, at this point, even though it's my second idea, it is the 6th book that I've drafted. So it's definitely come a long way.
Well, I'm trying to think, did you intend to tell a climate story, or did that just kind of happen? Like, you know what I'm saying? Did the story, was there an intention? Like, I want this to be, a bigger kind of moral lesson, or was it genuinely just your story kind of happened to fit the moment?
I remember, I read a lot, but I remember an article or a picture of a woman in China walking down the street wearing a face mask, which is, well, look where we are now, Pan Pizza Central. But that kind of spawned the idea. I think more so the ideas I initially had were a little bit more cyberpunk, but not that I knew what cyberpunk was at the time.
Right.
And then as I looked at it, it kind of evolved. I knew that everyone could not just breathe air naturally, but I didn't have a specific reason as to why. And I threw around a lot of different ideas and finally settled on the one that it is built around. But it wasn't intentionally to be climate change, because I know in during industrialization, the air quality was also terrible. So I was like, something along those lines, something mixed with like that, where we are now, the things that we're doing.
Yeah.
And it kind of all mixed together.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you one more question on that, but real quick, I'm just going to say to Margaret, or it popped up here. Margaret, drop the link for it. Margaret interviewed Denny Bryce, who started her career on Wattpad. Fascinating interview over on Margaret's, I think, a week ago. So drop it so folks can see it if you want to.
Oh, yeah.
So really quick, Chandra, let me ask you, where are folks going to be able to find Air? Are you going to query it, or are you planning to self-pub?
If you want a sneak peek, the best way would be to be a beta reader for me, to be quite honest. I think that's the direction I'm moving in, is querying. So if you're really curious, I've already had one beta reader finish the story, and I'm updating and adding in, updating as far as like, oh, you make a good point here. That's not, I left out an entire scene that I had in my head, but you don't know that because I never put it on paper. So I'm doing that thing now.
You have one.
Ooh,
Maggie says she will. Margaret says she might.
Ooh.
That ask and you shall receive.
I will also say, like, with any of my writings, I think we touched on how, I write pretty dark. There are trigger warnings. So if you're not sure, I also say this. The things that are traumatic and triggering for a lot of other people aren't necessarily traumatic and triggering for me. So I don't necessarily realize that I've done something triggering when I write. So I just like to put that out there as a general disclaimer. So if there's something that you're like, I definitely can't read this thing, it's easier for me to tell you if it's got that thing in it than it is for me to say, oh, here are all the things that I should list a trigger warning for.
Fair. So reach out to you is the best way.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And Instagram is the best way to reach out to me as well.
Love it. I cannot wait for Air. I'm excited for it. Guess what time it is?
Rapid fire.
Are you ready? There are only 10. I've pared them back since Sam did this to me, and I went, oh, this is hard. So I pared them back and changed them. Tell me when you're ready.
I only have a slight disclaimer of that. Realize that I am a Libra when you do this.
That's fine. No. I mean, I know. I'm just saying, like, as brevity, give us the brevity you can muster. Like, dig it as deep as you can. Okay, so number one question. What is one article of clothing that someone could wear on a date with you that would cause you to get up and walk out?
Tevas, Chacos, or Crocs?
Oh, Crocs. Okay, see.
I don't think I would walk out, but I would be like, mentally, I would walk out.
There'd be the same. I'd question some life choices. What was the worst style choice you ever made?
Culottes.
Bless. Does your current car have a name? And if so, what is it?
She doesn't.
We should change that.
I'm a hatchback person. She's a hatchback.
Okay.
We're a hatchback crowd.
Okay. I can get down with that. You're in a warmer climate than me, so that seems perfectly reasonable. If you had to eat one meal for the rest of your life, what would it be?
I could never.
Oh, really? Okay.
No,
okay.
I would get bored. I would starve to death after a while.
Give up. Okay. What season would you be?
Summer.
If you could live in any country, where would you live and why?
Is the beach a country? Because it wouldn't matter as long as it has a beach.
Yes, and I will be there too. If you were immortal, at what age would you choose to stop aging and why?
I don't know. That's really difficult because I feel like the older I get, the more beautiful I find people in my age group are. I don't know if that makes sense.
Oh, it totally does. That's why I'm seeing people in their 80s now and thinking, never have they been so hot. Okay, would you rather live in the ocean or on the moon?
They're both cold.
I know.
I don't like to be cold. Probably the moon, because I don't like to be like cold and wet, and the ocean is cold and wet. So yeah.
I was envisioning like an undersea world when I got that question, but yes, I agree that if it was like just me and the elements, I would choose the moon as well. So would you rather be the funniest or the smartest person in the room?
The funniest. You never want to be the smartest person in a room.
Always the best answer. You're going to sail around the world. What is the name of your boat?
Knowing how I write the Titanic.
That, you know what? You're not wrong. You're probably not wrong. I am going to go back real quick, and we are going to see what people's answers were to the questions, because we had new ones. So you had, and Natalie Locke also signed up as a beta reader, by the way. Wait, what was the question? Oh, about the outfits. Okay. I was like, wait, which was the one that had them all aghast? I was like, I thought those were mild at best. Salt.
That's funny.
Oh, okay. I see. That's what I said.
I think that's where my attachment issues come up.
Oh, Margaret's got it. Yes, I love that quote too. I want to see that on a t-shirt. It's like, the older I get, the hotter everyone looks, thanks to my cataracts. Okie doke. All right. So now that we had our giggles and our laughs, I'm going to take us to a bit of a serious moment, which is talking about grief. So recently you shared on your channel, I was watching a video, can't remember which one, but you mentioned that you had lost someone recently. And for those that didn't know, when we had the meetup that night, you lost someone, found out you'd lost someone, which is why you didn't join us that night. So I did lie to the audience. Sorry, guys. She was not working. But that is what happened that night. And so you've been going through that. I went through that a couple of years ago, and it was really tough for me. I was surprised by what that process was kind of like. And so when it happened, I asked you if you'd be okay chatting about this with us, and you said yes to an extent. So here we go. So after talking about that, was this your first experience with losing somebody close to you?
No. As a child, my best friend died when I was 8, and she was a year younger than I was. So that was, it was sudden. It was not, it was a lot. And so that's kind of, I guess there's been a lot of that throughout my life. Then her mom passed away, and she, that was my best friend's mom. Another close friend, her mother also passed away, and she'd been like another mother to me. And then of course, both of my grandparents on my dad's side, and then my grandmother on my mom's side. My grandmother on my dad's side, I was the closest to. And so her funeral was on my 23rd birthday, which is also when I was in the middle of getting divorced. And it was just like, it was a lot. So
shitstorm.
Yes. And so it is a familiar place to me, but I also found a lot of grief over, parts of my life that I lost due to.
Yeah.
So I find like there's kind of a low key, like, grief running. If this was a program, it runs in the background all the time.
Yeah. It's a feature, not a bug.
Yeah.
Interesting. I'm glad you're really reading my mind, since I didn't give you any questions in advance. But what's interesting about that is I think that's true about grief for me too. I lost people at a young age, and then throughout my life at different points. But what's been interesting to me is that I found that grief isn't only just about death, right? It can be a relationship. It can be a job. There could be lots of things that we're attached to in a deep and profound way that we grieve. So what for you have you learned about yourself through working through grief?
It's okay to be angry. Honestly, I think that's probably one of the things that I get the most angry about, because there's a lot of questions about like why that specific person, when there's other people that you're like, well, that's definitely a horrible person and they get to be here. And that's hard. It's hard. It's frustrating. It's enough to piss you off, and it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. I love this. The stress tsunami is real. What do you think is the one thing that you feel would surprise someone who is going through grief for the first time, or working through it for the first time? What do you think is the thing that surprised you that might surprise someone else?
Inappropriate humor. Also, people are uncomfortable with grief. They're uncomfortable with being around people who are grieving. They're
Yeah.
uncomfortable with grief responses. If you're around someone who is grieving, you don't have to be somber and serious the whole time. You can talk about other things. Like, honestly, being sad is exhausting.
Yeah.
Being in the midst of something like that is exhausting. And so talking about something else that's not related and seems inappropriate and irreverent and blasé can be helpful. Um, because the person who's grieving, most of the time, they do not want to be handled.
Yeah. That's a great word, actually, for it is handled, because we all have a tendency to do it, right? And that's actually my last question on this topic is, what is your advice to someone for how they can support someone through grief?
Mm-hmm.
Because my advice is always not handled is the word. I will use it from now on. But I would have said coddled. Try not to coddle people or give them that feeling of like, you're all over me all the time. So what's your advice? What would you tell someone who says, or for instance, if it's me sitting here saying, how can I support you? How can we help you through this? What would you say?
It depends on the person and how well you know them. For close friends, you know the things that they're going to be struggling to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Go do one of those things. Be willing to be rude to people. It's be the person who says, I know you've been hugged 1,000 times today. I know a bunch of people have told you how incredibly sorry they are. Or I know people have brought up conversations that you really don't want to have. So we don't have to talk about anything. Yeah. And ask. If you don't feel like you're close enough to the person to ask, then maybe you shouldn't be where you are.
Yeah. That's actually a great gauge is, if you don't feel comfortable enough to just slide in the DMs and say, hey, I know you're going through something. If you need me, I'm here. Please let me know how I can be there for you. And, if you're not feeling comfortable enough to do that, probably shouldn't do it. Right.
Yeah.
Just in general.
And I mean, it's okay to just to talk to someone later.
Yeah.
And to just say, I know you've had a lot going on. I know I'm sure you wanted to spend a lot of time with family. I wanted to be respectful. So I didn't reach out sooner.
Yeah.
The people who are going to hold that against you, it's like, there was no right way to handle that.
Sure.
But leading with the wanting to be respectful and not inserting yourself into situations where you shouldn't be, I think is important. I know with my grandfather, and my grandmother, it's in the West Indies. They have like a thing where everyone just comes by all day long with food and stuff, and everyone wants to like talk and share memories.
Sounds like Southern Baptists without the alcohol.
Yes, without the alcohol being the operative thing that makes it incredibly difficult to deal with. And what I found is after a while, all of us siblings were down in the basement hiding from the constant stream of visitors, and we would sacrifice one of us periodically to go up and get food. And whoever went up had to go. You don't want to have people feeling that way in their own house when they're dealing with something. So
yeah,
and I mean, my I call her my sister-in-law. She's my cousin's wife. She's pretty much my sister-in-law. She did all the things, ran interference, but people need space, and sometimes you want to be supportive, but sometimes the space that they need is just like you not to be there, and that's okay.
And the communication, I always say communication's key. Ask what someone needs, and usually they'll tell you. And if you feel like you're badgering someone, you probably are. So, if someone says no, then give them space and come back later. And then I love some of these comments, so I'm going to read a few of them. Jennifer Brown, who I know also experienced grief in a big way in 2021. Just be there for that person for whatever they need, unless it will be harmful to them. You don't do that. Writer Sam Wicker says, sometimes being there later is so helpful because there are the initial days where everyone is there, but then they're left alone later, which Really great point. JC Carpenter says, one of my best friends just lost her dad, and I told her that I didn't know the right words to say, but that I would be there for her anytime, day or night, if she wants to talk or just cry. And that's 100% the right thing to say. And then the only other thing I'd say is be okay with silence.
Mm-hmm.
I think when my mom lost her dad, of course, my grandpa, so we were both grieving, but it was different ways of grief. And she was very, very close to him. There were a lot of times where I was going to leave, and she asked me to stay like an additional 3 days, but she didn't want to talk to me. And it was bizarre because literally what people have seen in my videos, she can't even let me be in silence without coming in and talking to me. So it's weird. But again, that was her process. That was how she was dealing and working through.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, we're going to shift out of that. But I again appreciate you for sharing all of that and always being so open. So I kind of wanted to touch on that before we shifted into our final, which is I've been asking this thing because I'm trying to find my Zen space to get through 2022 without wanting to go up to the Anthem insurance building and scream my frustration into the ether every day out front naked. So what is your word? I asked you to think about a word that you were going to lean into that was going to mean something to you and carry you through 2022. What is your word?
Finish it.
Finish it. I like it. Okay, so I kind of can imagine why, but how can we as a community support you through that? What do you need us to do to help you get there?
I'm going to have shiny object syndrome. I'm going to take on more than I can handle. I'm going to practice all the avoidance techniques that I know, and I know all the avoidance techniques. I'm going to watch TV. I'm going to compulsively organize my email. I will scrub the baseboards with a toothbrush. I will do anything I can to avoid finishing the things that I need to finish. And that has been taking up a lot of my time. And so this year is about not doing that.
Yeah.
Being aware of all the pitfalls, taking on too much stuff, procrastinating, whatever the case may be. I'm finishing this doggone book.
Yes, you are.
This year.
Yes, you are.
And of course, I'm back in school because let's just say I'm a glutton for punishment.
I'm so proud of you. It's wonderful. I'm going to throw the biggest graduation party for you when you finish and you decide what's next. We're going to cheer you on every step of the way.
But that's it. I got to finish the book and I got to finish
school.
Mm-hmm.
You got this. You got this. How much time left on the school clock?
I'm thinking, so this semester, I think probably the fall semester for my associates at least. And I'll probably go on beyond that. But right now, that's this is what has to happen.
Yes. That's good. That's good. Well, so before we kind of wind down, tell me, is there anything huge coming up that we should shout out and just make sure everybody knows for you? What is the big thing going on?
Right now, Flash Fiction Live has really taken up all of my brain power, all of my energy. So that's where I am right now. Lots of flash fiction, all the flash fiction.
A lot of support. You can do it, Chandra. Encourage you. We believe in you. My word for 2022 is perseverance. No matter the obstacles that I get hit with, just persevere and keep moving forward 100%. Oh, good to see you, Colin. No worries. Just good to see you, my friend. Yes. Kelly was saying something up above that I absolutely loved. I'm going to read it real fast because it was great. I'm just learning to process grief in its many forms, but it's cheese. But as a Pisces, I notice a lot of my company tends to be people who need someone to tell them it's okay and feel that they feel what they feel and that they are valid and not weak for feeling. Yes, to all of that energy. I wish we didn't have to normalize that. That would be great. And you've got this, Chandra. You've got this. Everyone's loving it. Giving you all the good vibes and energy. So flash fiction on yours or Natalie's Saturday?
Yes.
So yes, do that.
I think we were on Natalie's last week, so it would be on mine this Saturday.
So Chandra's channel Saturday at early morning, 9 a.m. I think.
9 a.m.
And then what else is going on with you this month? Anything big? Anything huge? Just finish it? Are you just in head down, finish it mode?
Yes. I do have some videos, some fun videos coming up this month. Actually, I have one that I'll be straying into some dangerous YouTube territory. So if you would come by and boost it for the algorithm, because I don't know how it's going to go.
I love it.
I am excited about it. I've been working on this idea for a while.
I'm so excited. Let me know and send me a link.
I will send you a link. And but yeah, keep an eye out for it. It'll of course have an attention grabbing title. You'll know it when you see it. But yes. Oh, also if you watch Dr. Mama June on YouTube.
I don't.
Okay, well you should. She gives wonderful she's an OB, so she gives a lot of like factual information, and in fact her information is so factual that some schools have been using her videos as part of their curriculum, which has been really interesting because that anyway, story. Anyway, definitely look her up, but I will be linking one of her videos, and so I'm sure you can guess the general direction this video will be going in. But yes, that's the biggest thing I've got.
Some people know her, so you're getting lots of like, oh, okay.
Yes.
I don't think you know exactly which day, but near future.
Yes. So I think I'm going to do that one Wednesday. So I have a video for tomorrow, and then I plan to do that one on Wednesday.
Yay! Okay, that's major. I can't wait. Well, I hope you will come back and do my new show sometime in the next year.
On grief, might I say one more thing?
Please keep.
During this past, first of all, thank you so much for lying for me, because I gave you like zero information. I was just like, I'm not going to be there. And so I saw what you said. Oh, also I was like, please don't tell anybody. So like,
well, I mean, I figured, but we wouldn't have.
Yeah.
More than anything, we were just kind of like, oh no. Yeah. We were.
I did feel a little bit like a magician showing up, throwing dust on the ground, and poof. But I appreciate you. You handled that so very well, and you know, I knew that both you and Nia had my back, so I can't thank you enough for that.
100. We love you. We love you.
And then everybody needs a person like my best friend, and I don't know if he's watching this. I mean, you know, I send him all this stuff anyway. But yeah, my best friend for the next week helped me get out of bed every day, because I started making lists in my head of things that I need to do, and it's too much.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I can never accomplish all this. Why bother getting out of bed? I'll just stay here. So I'll just, you know, short circuit the process, and I will be right where I started, you know.
Warm.
Yes, and warm. And so yeah, he talked me through the process of getting up in the morning, which, as always, should start with a cup of coffee or tea, whatever your beverage of choice is. But if you are a best friend to somebody, you're doing the Lord's work. You are, and
it's true.
I have one of the very best in the world.
Well, and thank them. Did you say? I don't know. Okay, I didn't know if you pronounced, so I was like them. Thank him for us, because yeah, we're glad to have you back. And listen, you were bouncing back so fast for Winter's Writers Retreat. I wasn't even sure. It was just a couple weeks later, and you were already saying, I can do it. I'll be back, and you were. My gosh, and yeah, I wish I could do more and hug you. I wish I was closer. Well, I think your state is more batshit about COVID than mine. So if that's even possible.
That honestly, I don't know if it's a healthy coping mechanism, but when I'm dealing with stuff, I like to work more.
Oh, well, same. I guess same. Now that I look at my own line, like, what are you talking about? 18 videos a week and 40 collaborations. I get it. I get what you're saying.
No,
I might know about that.
My therapist and I had a definite conversation about, oh, so when you get stressed, you like to get a new job? He's like, you know, you can't get a new job every time you have a stressful life situation. But why?
Why not? It's a great time. I'm glad we had this conversation. I hope you'll have some more about it, because again, I know that lots of folks in the community have dealt with grief, as we've just discussed, which is why I wanted to have the conversation, because I know you're not in a silo, and neither is anybody else in this crazy little world we're in. So yeah, no, thank you for being so open and willing to talk about it. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I've enjoyed this. And
come and play again. I love you to pieces, and loved this. Sorry it took me 3 months to get my act together.
Not at all.
Yeah, and we'll do it again soon. For me, I don't really have anything to shout out, folks. Next week, this time, Michelle Schusterman is my guest. So she is my guest next Thursday. And then the following week is the new show. So I'm switching to Mondays. So Mondays will be the new show day, and then Thursdays will be vlog day, except the week that's Critique Group Live. So that's what's up for me. And for Chandra, be sure and check out her channel this Saturday morning, 9 a.m. That's going to be big, and I can't wait. And happy Flash Fiction February, everyone. See if you can do that 18 times fast. And I hope everyone stays healthy and well. I love you all to bits, and thanks for hanging out with us. Bye.